It was great to talk to Owen Tribe this week. Owen is one of our Alpha Insights fractional consultants, and Owen specializes in AI data and cybersecurity and automation, really driving the Industry 4.0 agenda within advanced manufacturing companies. Now, Owen has over 30 years of experience and very much at that C-suite level, and is now operating and working as a fractional consultant representing Alpha Insights and indirectly EMBS with our potential customers who are looking to bring in real capability, real experience to build roadmaps, to build strategy specifically around data tech, AI, and driving that Industry 4.0 agenda. It is a really complex thing to do for all of the CTOs, all of the CIOs and C-suite in tech. They may understand conceptually what it is that they're looking to try to deliver, but it's actually having a resource and some capability to actually execute, build the plan. That's really where Owen comes into play, and in this case, where Alpha Insights comes into play. I talked to Owen this week about his 5A's of AI, and this is what he had to say. Can you just give us a bit of a sense of what the 5A's of AI is all about?
I can do, thank you. Yeah, and again, what underpins all of this is again making sure that your data is correct, because without getting your data strategy right, it doesn't matter what you put on top of it, because ultimately, you're going to probably fail. The way to look at the 5A's framework is that imagine it as if it's a triangle. And at the base level, the first A in AI talks about automation, because what we're interested in doing is if we can get the piece of data from here to here, can we actually take data from this system and put it over there? Can we get data from the shop floor? Can we get your scrap metrics into a system where that's automated? If you can't automate the data capture, the data collection, it doesn't matter what you put on top. It doesn't matter what artificial intelligence you use further down the road. It's just not going to fly. That's the fundamental. That's the first layer on the triangle. And actually, that's going to get you so far. So if you imagine the base of the triangle's fatter at the bottom, that's why we need to focus there. Then you move up and you look into augmented intelligence. Okay, so this is where a lot of the noise is right now around AI, because ChatGPT, Claude, any of those LLMs, they're all augmented intelligence. They allow you to do stuff quicker. So therefore, you can write things really, really quickly. You can summarize things really, really quickly. There's loads of great stuff that you can do your PFMEAs, for example, really, really quickly using AI. One thing that businesses hate, absolutely hate, because you're focused on the manufacturing in particular, making stuff and making stuff that's good quality that doesn't break. So therefore, all of this other stuff is like, it's secondary, right? But it's crucial that you do it and your customers need it. And that's how you run a good business. And it's very, very labor intensive. You think about risk logs. I can't, I mean, number of places I go, they don't even have a risk log and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to triage it. Technology is managed through risk. If you don't have a risk log within your technology function, if you've got a technology function, that is, you're not going anywhere because you don't understand. That's one of the things that causes paralysis. And of course, what you need to do is you put that on top of your data. So you can have as many clever augmented intelligences out there as you need, but if you haven't got the data, you can't get that data into the right places. None of it's going to work. It's like training all of your AI and your LLM on Twitter. It's going to be an echo chamber for the conversations on there. So if you don't get your data sorted and you can't get it automatically to where you need to get it, which is the first rung on the pyramid, you're kind of on a hiding to nothing. So amazingly powerful. But I use augmented intelligence every single day. It's great. It means I can achieve 10 times more and I'm more accurate, I'm more thorough. Do you know what? I hate doing things like risk logs. They drive me up the wall, but they're the bedrock of all regulation, of all of those fundamentals to drive a really successful business for. So at the bottom, you've got the automation, then you've got the augmented intelligence on top of that. Then what you start to get into is more of the algorithmic intelligence. So that's the third A, is algorithmic. When I look at and when I have conversations in the manufacturing space, what is it that people want? They go, well, if we have predictive maintenance, so we fixed the processes, we fixed the machines, we made sure that our WIP buffers were closed down, we made sure that we could drive everything. Do you know what, if we actually had algorithmic decision making where you think of the function of an ERP or an MRP system is to actually do some of the heavy lifting for you. Again, you can put this stuff in. If you haven't actually figured the first two layers out, you are going to be going, great, well, it tells us half the story and we're trying to make automatic decisions, algorithmic decisions. Our data's rubbish. Guess what? You're getting bad results. Guess what? People are going, it's rubbish, it doesn't work. And it's because you missed the first two steps out. So that's why this is the framework. You've got to get the first two things right. And that's where there's a lot of benefit, right? But it's all about inputs and outputs. Even the things that you're making, even cars, they're only as good as the inputs and the outputs, where they decide to slam the brakes on in the fast lane of the M5 because they think there's a person there. That's bad input data producing the wrong output, right? I say that because that's happened to me. Then where we get to, where a lot of people are jumping the gun on this, is they go into the agentic level. So agentic is where you start to say, right, well, I can have autonomous agents that are making these decisions for me, which is fantastic, right? So therefore, you can actually allow the AI to exist as very, very specific units of functionality that do expected results over and over again. And the idea is that, that's the kind of level where it may replace a human function because it's repetitive and it's boring, but it does it really, really well because you can program it. Again, getting to the agentic level means that if you try and do that, but you haven't understood your algorithmic decision making, if you haven't understood how you can actually use augmentation, if you haven't, to get the data there in the first place, if you haven't done the automation, again, you're building your house on sand, and therefore don't be surprised when it goes wrong and you've spent $1 million on something that didn't work because it was never going to work. And when you're busy and there's a lot of pressure on you, that's where the value comes in to say, well, look, where's the data coming from to allow you to do these things? So it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean you couldn't do some of these things in parallel. But have you got a strategy? Do you understand the difference? The last bit, which is the tip of the pyramid, we're nowhere near ready for this. If you can't do any of those other things and you can't regulate them and you can't actually understand that we need to have laws around all of this, this is the scary bit. With the tip of the triangle is the kind of the artificial intelligence. And you think about it in terms of it's making autonomous decisions completely and utterly, where there are people saying, hey, let's replace humans. It'll make all the decisions for you. So in that situation, there will be situations where that will work at some point in the future. And again, the problem in people's thinking is when you talk about AI, half of the people you talk to will say, "Don't know anything about that. Too much. Don't understand it. Tell me where I've got to type it into Excel." The other half will quite potentially talk about Skynet and Terminator and the rise of the machines and the end of humanity. And we're going to have 2 days. That's all people will do, and everyone will be in poorhouses again. So that is the threat perceived through AGI. Most people can't get their foundational data and automation together at this point. So people are jumping in to the top of the pyramid, and that's the whole thing. That's what causes the paralysis. That's what causes people to make bad decisions. That's what causes companies to say it's all rubbish. It'll all go to hell in a handcart. And it isn't. It's just that you're jumping to the tip of the triangle and you're not seeing all of the other steps of the processes that you need to go through first.